Tata Motors is no stranger to SUVs, with the likes of the Sierra, Safari, and the best-selling Nexon. And now the world is ready for this, the all-new Harrier. And look at it, it looks magnificent. When we first laid our eyes on this car at the Auto Expo, Tata Motors told us that the design elements will remain intact. Of course, some of the most exaggerated parts of the concept car haven't been brought down, but those have been toned down a little. But most of what you see is what we saw at the Auto Expo. You have these beautiful looking LED DRLs, which are only available on the top end variant. The lower variants get daytime running lights, but not LEDs. Then there are these headlamps. Now, roles have been reversed here because headlamps usually are up here and the DRLs are usually down. So roles have been reversed, and that has worked in the company's favor. So here you have xenon HID lamps, halogen projectors on the lower variants, while the fog lamp. And of course, there is this Impact 2 design, which is a first for the Harrier, and it is the first car to get the Impact 2.0 design, is this three-dimensional humanity line. This styling is true to the emerging global trend, where we see slimmer lights up top. Look closely and you'll see an Easter egg on the headlamp, a lion, which apparently represents the Harrier's position amongst other SUVs, which have been likened to sheep. The DRLs double up as turn indicators, and those look pretty cool too. The Harrier is developed on the all-new Optimal Modular Efficient Global Advanced Architecture, or Omega Arc for short, which has been derived from Land Rover's former D8 platform, which in turn was based on Ford's EUCD platform. So everything from the former Volvo S60 to the Land Rover Freelander 2, solid products for sure. Now the side of the car is pretty low slung, so it adds to the sporty credentials of the car. Now, especially the ground clearance is actually 205 millimeters, so it's not that bad. But still, the way you sit in the car, it's still a bit low slung. Now, all these chrome elements on the door handles, or even this chrome element that you see, which finishes off here, might look a bit exaggerated to you, but they aren't. If you see it in the flesh, they aren't. This is the first time where you actually see the Harrier badging on the car. The wheel arches too are a bit exaggerated, but they add visual mass, and even this cladding does that, adds visual mass to that entire car. And then you move on to the back, where you have these slim petal-like tail lamps and a black element which joins both the tail lamps together. And of course, there's this beautiful rear spoiler right here, which adds to the entire, which is actually very proportionate and adds to the entire mass of the SUV, bringing it a sense of appeal that probably you won't find in another SUV. It's got presence, you have to grant it that. And people on the road give the car a second look. There's a splash of chrome, yes, but it's not overdone, and the Harrier name badge appears just twice on the car with no space for variant badges. It's simple, and that's why attracts your attention. The simplicity is carried into the cabin as well. Now up front, all your controls are on your steering wheel. So the left hand side of the steering wheel mounted controls are dedicated towards the infotainment system. Right hand side dedicated towards the trip, as also cruise control options as well. So here you have your floating 8.8-inch touchscreen infotainment system. The lower variants gets 7-inch system, but it's also a touchscreen infotainment system. Then there are these driving modes.
Economy drive mode activated.
Yeah, driving modes available for you. There's economy, city, and sport mode. Then there is the terrain response system right here, the 6-speed manual gearbox, and of course this cooled glove where you can basically place everything. There's also just one USB port here, which is a bit odd, and I expected at least two. But what is interesting is this. This is the parking brake, and it's been inspired by, of course, aeroplanes, and it saves a lot of space. It does not create any kind of hindrance when it comes to gear changes or when it's parked, and it's just slots in there. An extremely innovative design. Tata's troubles with onboard electronics continue though, since the infotainment system in our car and several other test cars needed to be rebooted a few times to get it to work. For those looking for sunroof, well, there isn't one, but there's a good amount of room for the rear seat passengers. Now back here, there's enough and more space for me. There's enough and more knee room. I can easily fit here. Enough and more headroom as well. So no problems as such, and a good under thigh support as well. And there is this, I can just clamp down, and there are two cup holders here. And there is space for storage here as well up front. There is one USB port down there. However, what is interesting is that there are two storage spaces right here on my right on the door. So one is where you can keep your phone and just place it there, so that even if it rings, you can actually see it, which is extremely interesting. And the other is a bottle holder. But otherwise, this space is extremely good. There are also rear AC vents that you can see here. So enough and more air is ventilated through that. The Harrier has rear parking sensors as standard. At the top end, you also get a rear parking camera, which strangely is not HD, and so the output is a bit pixelated. The top end variant also gets an oak brown leather seat upholstery, while the side view mirrors are equipped with logo projection. The 9-speaker JBL system has incredible acoustics, but the feature list gives inbuilt navigation a miss. There's ample boot space on offer though at 425 litres. The Harrier offers 425 litres with the rear seats folded up, and with them down there's 810 litres. Good enough for a couple of baby elephants perhaps. The Harrier uses high-strength steel for greater stability and safety. Now the Harrier is powered by a 2-litre diesel engine. There's no petrol on offer, and this is the derivative of Fiat's Multijet 2 engine that we've seen on the Jeep Compass. Now 138 brake horsepower on offer, quite enough to get this car moving because it weighs only about 1700 kilos. Now the torque kicks into this turbocharged unit at around 1800 RPM, and that's quite good because you need that low end torque. The power delivery is linear, and this one has an extremely good mid-range, so overtaking is no problem. The gear slots, the gear box is a 6-speed manual, and the gear slot in well. However, second to third is a bit of an issue because there you go, yeah, it pretty much slots in all right, but second to third and third to back to second are a bit of an issue. The clutch is nice and light, and that's good because there's only a manual transmission on offer. Yes, there's an automatic in the pipeline, and we'll get to see it probably soon. How soon we are not told, but it's that long travel of the clutch that takes a toll on the way you drive, and especially in traffic conditions. The Harrier has city, eco and sport drive modes. The default setting is city, and though there's a hint of lag, it's not as evident as when it's in eco mode. You expect it of eco because, well, it helps save you fuel. The sports mode though is fun and the engine responds well to your urgent throttle responses. Switching to the multi-drive modes though does not have any effect on the gearbox or suspension setting. It's purely a throttle response. It also comes with terrain response modes, normal, rough and wet, but we spend most of our time on tarmac, so we'll leave that for another day. The folks at Tata Motors say that the Harrier has completed over 2.2 million kilometers of testing and the car has been adapted for Indian conditions. We don't doubt that claim for a minute, and that is because the front suspension has been carried forward from the Land Rover's D8 platform, while the rear twist beam has come in from Lotus Engineering. It has been designed by Lotus Engineering. It does get a little bumpy at the back, and that's probably because of the stiffer suspension. It's not on the softer side, it's a bit stiff, and that actually can be a bit uncomfortable, especially when the car goes through potholes, because there is a slight kickback and it makes things behind a bit uncomfortable. On the safety front, the Harrier comes with dual airbags, ABS with EBD, which are all standard. The top-end variants get 6 airbags, ESP, rollover mitigation, corner stability control, traction control, hill descent control and more. All in all, the Harrier is quite the package, and the attention to detail reflects the changing attitudes and systems at Tata. But the lack of an automatic transmission is a huge sore thumb. People may also miss inbuilt navigation or even the sunroof, but we hope for all that on future variants. Tata Motors plans to launch the Harrier in January 2019, and we expect it to be priced between 16 lakh rupees to 21 lakh rupees, which will put it in the territory of the Hyundai Creta at the bottom and the Jeep Compass or even the Mahindra XUV 500 at the higher end. The Harrier is great looking, is a good package on the whole, and we think it should be priced well too, which means competition beware.